program produced by Primal Media and presented by Top Artists to 96.7, FitFMJA.com, and Primal4K.com.
Blessings and light. This is Imara, the musical revolutionary. You're an host on the community buzz on Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music. This and every Monday at 3 p.m. From the home to the community to the wider world. Let us be the change we want to see. Join me this and every Monday at 3 p.m. on the community buzz on Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music. Fit mind, fit body, fit community, fit world. This is Imara, the musical revolutionary on the community buzz on Fit FM 96.7. Your life, your music.
Before God and all mankind, I pledge the love and loyalty of my heart, the wisdom and courage of my mind, the strength and vigor of my body in the service of my fellow citizens. I promise to stand up for justice, brotherhood, and peace, to work diligently and creatively, to think generously and honestly, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race.
Struggle goes on. We are the builders of the pyramids. We are the builders of the stone cities of Zimbabwe. We build them White House. We build them factories. With blood, with sweat, with tears. With flesh, with bones. Them use to build them economy. Now them want to come you and me with them science and them technology. We make them take with knowledge. Now them are deafly. Them are blindly. We are walk, we are ride, we are drive, we are fly. Nah look, nah see. Eyes focus on the screen of an iPhone, Galaxy, tablet, Blackberry. Wake up, look. Uno no sister them are buried with. Ancestors crying out. Them are weak, you see we heading back to slavery. Robotic, digital, technological slavery. The rich take them session, call it recession, left the world in depression. Legal and illegal drugs and alcohol on the rise, in dear interests. To our demise we patronize, now become marginalized, make fools seem wise, because we abide them lies and sell with lies. Prostituting our sons, daughters, and wives. Marcus did rise. Sam Sharp did rise. Bogle did rise. Taki did rise. Queen and Zinga did rise. Harriet Tubman rise. Rosa Parks rise. Malcolm X rise. Frederick Douglass rise. Ancestors rise.
96.7. 96.7.
Eileen Thomas said, Imara, rise. Organize, mobilize, visualize. Stop look through for them eyes and through your own eyes. Give them. Good afternoon. Yes, it's Monday the 3rd of what? July. Number 7th month of 2023. And yes, we are here on the community buzz. We give thanks for life. We give thanks for rich, rich. That we are say, you know what I mean? Once we are up, we're full of health and strength and vigor, yeah, we say we're rich. You know what I mean? How you doing out there? I hope you're feeling rich within yourself, you know, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and if you are commercially rich, salute yourself, you know what I mean, or financially rich. Just know, say, it's blessings, you know, and we give thanks for life because we are alive, you know, so we give thanks for being apart. I never like use the word apart because we are. See, yes, we are here. How you doing? How you doing, people in the United States of America? How are you doing? How are you doing in South America? How are you doing in Africa, the continent Africa? How are you doing down there in Australia? We are big on up. How are you doing in the Middle East? Right? Dubai. Yeah, Julia bless up some people at Dubai. See? I went for the morning connection. See? So we are blessed on up. We are give thanks to the people in London. My brethren there when you're there, Jamaica, you know, we know say. With a link up before you go back. See? Yes. May I big up my brethren Milton Booth over there in Maryland, my producer. See? Bless up yourself, Milton Booth. Shango, how you do? You always look out for me, you know. Share with the coconut oil. It's sweet, you see. And smell good. You understand? Yes, we give thanks to a man like Shango, you know, when we're going to the market, him say, just pick any banana you want, you know. That's your price over there. So, see? One time we were bringing Shango, you know, consider my reason, because he's a man we are serving communities. One of them Rasta man, they were just nice. And the people, them love him. You can see how people gather around him in the market. You know what I mean? All the vibes with him, humble Rasta man, you know. Saying, and this is the culture of Jamaica, you know, where we have to celebrate and know that our people are very adventurous and great within themselves, you know. Them don't just make life pass them by. They are make life happening for them because them know that they are life and them have to serve each other. And that's why we always observe the principles of Kwanzaa, you know what I mean? And you know, today we could just look on the whole thing of cooperative economics because we have a talk, you know, we have a reason pertaining to what is happening in the world right now, you know. There are so many things happening and we must take the lead right now. And we see so many things happening on the continent, you know, the African leaders are rising from Barbados. Mia Motley. See, she is fiery. You know what I mean? I dub her the president of the Caribbean because she's out there agitating and advocating for so many things, you know. Some of the things I may agree with and some may have to look into, you know what I mean? Because it's political views and we have to have our own ways of seeing things. I mean, we see she talking about a universal basic income. I'm going to talk about that with Chris, you know, to see what it is like. This morning we have a little discussion about it, you know what I mean, to see how this thing can work for us all, if this will bring the kind of equity that we are looking for economically. See, so we have to look into these things, you know. So I say, make we talk about Kwanzaa, cooperative economic, Ujama, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. So that is what we are talking about. How we go forward to our own economic system, that it just don't benefit just a few, but it benefit the all who participate. It's just like Jamaica is a corporation, saying, and there are so many of us contributing to the growth and the development of this corporation, but we are not benefiting. Just a few are reaping the benefit, you know. And that is the culture of the modified slavery system called capitalism. You know what I mean? So we look into these things and we analyze them for ourselves because they're not going to teach you these things. You know, if you follow those who create the education system, they are going to design something to suit their agenda and not the agenda of those who are being oppressed. The oppressors will not create no form of structure or system to liberate the oppressors. Because to liberate the oppressors, it means that to liberate the oppressed, the oppressors will not create no form of system to liberate the oppressed. Because the oppressors maintain power by having the oppressed under their subjugation. See? So we must understand these things. The only liberation come from the oppressed. Is the oppressed have to fight and liberate themselves, and in turn liberate the oppressors. That is how it is. You understand? That's the reality. And you see these things from way back, from feudalism, come through colonialism, slavery, chattel slavery. Is the enslaver of it get up and do something, you know what I mean, to ease the foot of the slave masters off of them neck. So we have to understand these things and get strong, you know what I mean. So as we said, we have some things that go on, you know, we see some news out, you understand, and we have to pay attention. Rape go on naturally. People want to open up their eyes, want to be careful. You know, going on taxi or on vehicle with no strange man or no strange woman, can't just man alone or rape. No, neither. I don't know if you understand that. A number of victims of rape in Trelawny over some time have been identified as children. And according to the top law enforcer in the parish, the alleged perpetrators of the egregious acts are often close family members of the minors. In making this startling revelation at the recent town hall meeting in Falmouth, Trelawny, head of the parish police, Deputy Superintendent Winston Milton, urged parents to be more cautious about who they have around their children. We can be very trusting, but sometimes we have to take precautions to ensure our children are not victimized by those who we trust, he warned, while indicating that major crimes, particularly murders, are down in the parish. He said there has been a noticeable increase in rapes there. According to the Jamaica Constable Force, JCF, latest crime statistic up to June 24, 7 incidents of rape have been recorded in Trelawny. Enough that, you know, we have to pay attention. Because when you the recorded one, what about those who don't record it? You understand? See, this represents an increase in one or 16.7% when compared to the 6 that was recorded for the same period last year. In relation to the incident of rape, we are particularly concerned because in most cases, the victims of this particular category are crime are minors, Milton informed. I want me to go on with today, like me now say. In a lot of the instances, the perpetrators are allegedly person of trust, person who are close to the victim, either a relative of the victim, like cousins, stepfathers, and in some instances, sad to say, fathers and neighbors, he said. Yes, these things are happening. So I'm saying to the people, you know, be cautious, be militant, you know what I mean? Be on the alert, because so many things happening, you know, so many things happening, good and bad news. You understand? We see so why else I go on at Trelawny, you know, before we move on. We see National Water Commission. I move from the location, Martabray, into what they call it, Champion Plaza. Yeah, so that I go on. That I go on in Trelawny. See? And many other things happening where, you know, we want the people them to reach out, you know, to the station and make we know what is happening, you know what I mean? You know, say, recently, I made a post. I made a post about, the post is that if thou shalt not have any other God but me, or thou shalt not have any other God from me, according to my brethren, Randy Fagan. See? And I am saying a God who says something like that is a God who is narcissistic in his thinking. That is how I see it. He make a full statement to say, if me would have said to my son, if me wouldn't tell my son, say, don't have any father, other father. Now, if your son born and I grow up and I call you daddy, why would I drive you now if you tell your son, say, don't have any other father away from me? It don't make no sense whatsoever. And maybe I have to call up on some of my brethren, them, some of my pastor brethren, them, like Reverend Rotty and them, to come dissect some of these things that them say, a God saying at the Bible. Because I don't believe an intelligent God would make a statement like that. You know what I mean? If it say, thou shalt not have any other God but me. How that work? You understand? So we have to pay attention to these statements. And why I made that statement is based upon some things that I really see are going on in the world. You understand? The happenings. It's not the Bible. Some people believe that the Bible you attack when you make them statement, but it not have nothing to do with the Bible. You understand? It don't really have nothing to do with the Bible. It's just when you observe certain historical evidence and you see how the world have been running for centuries, you realize that even when you come up with any ideas that is different from the system of white supremacy, you know, they try to attack it, they put it down. You know, we see it happen to many African leaders. We see it happen here in Jamaica, you know what I mean, in the 70s, the destabilization of government. And this is where I am coming from when I said there's a system that said, and there's a God that said, thou shalt not have any other God. But that, you know what I mean? I'm going to play something here that people can understand. This is not from me. Just listen to this. I hope it can come true.
It was a narrative created by colonizers like my Portuguese ancestors in order to justify what they were doing to other people on the continent of Africa and even here in North America. And the narrative was that we white people were better than all other races. And they did so through Christianity. They took the Bible and different scripture verses, twisted it around in order to fit the narrative of colonialism and white supremacy, and also the patriarchy. And the patriarchy is white man in power. White supremacy is white man in power. Colonialism is white man in power. And Christianity, for the most part nowadays, is white man in power. There are historical references and proof where the Catholic Church actually said to enslave an African was to save their soul. The kidnapped and enslaved Africans that were here in North America were preached different scripture verses than were actually in the Bible. And that's why they weren't allowed to read. Because if they could read, then they could see that these scripture verses were incorrect and they couldn't be controlled anymore by this white God. Yeah. And white people, we didn't identify as white until colonialism. We identified as Portuguese or Latvian or German or Italian or French. But then colonialism came around and then all of a sudden we became white and we were superior because we were the chosen race by God and preached the gospel when really it was all a ruse. It was all an excuse to go in and rape and...
Yes. So, we'll stop it right there. So, I want people to understand why we make certain statements. And just to listen to a part where she said, the Catholic Church, to enslave an African is to save them soul. We want to listen to that and make that sink in. Right? To enslave an African is to save them soul. From last week, we did on how Europe underdeveloped Africa. And we want to observe some things, you know what I mean? Because, you know, every time we do these programs, we prepare ourselves because it's not about entertainment. We entertain us by playing some music, but it is more about education. It's about enlightenment. It's about raising the awareness of our people. that them can understand some of the things that we are struggling with and we can't get out of certain things and why we are under some psychological, economical enslavement all the while. It's because most of the policies and the systems in the world are not developed by us. They have nothing to do with us. We are just there supporting, those systems to our own detriment. And that's why a brilliant man like Walter Rodney wrote a book called How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. And it is through the same system, education. I'm going to talk about the whole system of education. Just a quick thing before we go to our guests. Early Educational Commission also accorded high priority and religious moral flavoring of instruction, something that was disappearing in Europe itself. The role of the Christian church in the educational process obviously needs special attention. The Christian missionaries were as much a part of colonizing forces as were the explorers, traders, and soldiers. There may be room for arguing whether in a given colony, the missionaries brought the other colonists' forces to vice versa. But there is no doubting the fact that missionaries were agents of colonialism in the practical sense, whether or not they saw themselves in that light. The imperialist adventurer, Sir Henry Johnson, disliked missionaries, but he conceded in praise of them that each mission station is an exercise in colonization. In Europe, the church had long held the monopoly over schooling from feudal times right into the capitalist era. By the late 19th century, that situation was changing in Europe. But as far as the European colonizers were concerned, the church was free to angle the colonial educational system in Africa. The strength and weaknesses of that schooling were very much to be attributed to the church. Both inside and outside church and school, the personnel of the church were instrumental in setting values during the colonial epoch. They taught an ethic of human relation that in itself could appeal to the finer instincts of Africans, just as it had previously stirred other Europeans. Of course, there was a huge gap between European conduct and Christian principles with which they were associated. And on part of the Africans, it was also true that motives for accepting Christianity often had nothing to do with the content of the religion. Indeed, the church, as a source of education, was probably more attractive to many converts than the church as a dispenser of religion. Whatever the church taught in any capacity may be considered as a contribution to formal and informal education in colonial Africa, and its teachings must be placed within a social context. The church role was primarily to preserve the social relation of colonialism as an extension for the role it played in preserving the social relations of capitalism in Europe. Therefore, the Christian church stressed humility, docility, and acceptance. I want to stop this off for a while. See? And I want the people to understand what we're upon. We're going to talk about reshaping a new economic and political system when we come forward with an esteemed individual, Christopher. We'll take a break and come forward. Then we'll come back. We talk to Christopher Castillo.
The cry of the oppressed, the cry of the downtrodden man. Brothers and sisters, we got to, yes, rise up, rise, God, don't you bow and fall. Evil men will fight you down, even when you're back against the wall. Rise up, rise and tall. Don't you bow and fall. No matter what they say or do, think big, don't think small. If you're working so hard, then get underpaid. And to mount situation that's just first aid. Depression and stress when the bills can't be paid. Still me not go fall, and I go fade. Got to move ahead in life no matter what it takes. The chains and the barriers, you know we gotta break. My eyes are open, now that come awake. Now go make you eat up the cake. Rise up, rise and tall. Don't you bow and fall. Evil men will fight you down, even when you're back again.
Yes, yes. That is yours truly, you know. Rise and tall. Don't bow nor fall. Evil men will fight we down, even when we're back against it, you know. So we are standing tall. You know, we want the people them to know that we are on primal4k.com. So tune in. And we are also on www.fitfmja.com and FitFM 96.7. We are there, saying, and you can call in 876-478-9144, 876-513-6668, saying 876-478-9144, 876-513-6668. Yes, this is the community buzz. And we're going to talk to Mr. Christopher Castriota. How you doing, King? Are you doing great over there? How you doing?
I am doing good, my friend Aymara. How are you?
Bless up my colleagues. We can call them my colleagues, you know, because, you know, we are a family of Primal and Fit are one.
Most definitely.
Yes, see, and we're always on the polls. Sometime we come on the polls, you know, with you and Mr. Derek Mitchell. One of the time we have the two on here, I know that we can go deeper into things because we have.
Yes, man, that would be appreciated.
Yes, because we have an extra hour over here, so we can talk. See, no disrespect to my friend over Primal, Neema and Joel. Bless up myself and family over Primal. See, and right now Primal tune in and lock in. So all the listeners on Primal, we are here. Chris, there's so many things to talk about. You understand? This morning we're talking about the universal basic income, right? And one of the things I want, before me even go into that, you see, Chris, just tell the people a little bit about yourself because they need to know who is Christopher Castriota.
I am a former journalist. A former diplomat. I am a trained social worker. I have studied journalism. I am also an author, a poet, and I am a farmer.
Great. Short and spicy. It's not a man we are going. I'm going to big up himself too much, but there's so many things, and I know that he's well knowledgeable and capable. What you may say to my brethren, we see a car, what them call it, them car, what them call it there. Burn up. And I was saying, Jamaica really ready for this thing yet? We're talking about like, you know, for electric cars and them thing that it could just burn up and thing. You know, the reason why me kind of talk, Chris, is because the little buffering was going on a while ago. So me just did a, you know, make sure say, we not lose no ear by us, so is it, you know what I mean? We just want to make sure.
But that electric vehicle thing is a serious conversation, though.
Yeah. So that's why I put out a little post and say, you think we're ready for this thing yet? One of my brethren who so much real, my brethren, real Carnif, who so much into technology. I say, yes, we're ready. And see, you know, if we're not even ready for can have a nice conversation right on a radio station without all sort of drop off and drop on and the buffering and all of these things. Then we're not really ready technologically for Jamaica as Jamaica yes to deal with this what we call it world of technology. We still a lag behind, you know what I mean? Because
that depends on how you look at it, Amaro.
Yeah, no, when I say the service providers, I went to a place to buy some phone card today. And one of the service provider place, inside of them office, and how long me did there? The thing can't boot up. Yeah? Just check it. One of the service provider just to sell me a phone card. Me alone in there for nearly 15 minutes I wait. I alone to get a phone card. So already are we? Just think about that.
I agree with that on one level, but you see, whereas because my local service provider, I have a whole heap of issues with them.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to be in contact with them is when they are sending you your bill or reminding you to pay your bill. When you want to get in touch with them, it's always difficult to do that.
And they are making it even more difficult now. Because you have to go sit down and wait for your machine for over hour. I suffered these things so many times. You know what I mean? Trying to get something done, and I have to sit down and wait for your machine, just talking on my ears and some music I play until after an hour somebody come on and just start to sound like the machine as well. So Chris, we were talking this morning about a universal basic fund, and you was making some very important points, about how it can work and how it could work. Fill us in on that, your views. I listened to the Barbados Prime Minister, pushing this thing about the universal basic fund income, universal basic income. That's the right term. And I'm looking at it and say, oh, that won't really work, and you were pointing out even Jamaica with some of the challenges where we might have for that work effectively here.
All right, well, I have a lot of respect, regard, and time for Mia Mottley of Barbados. She is a very progressive individual who has the interest of not just Barbados, but the Caribbean and the wider world. Whenever she speaks, it's not just with a tunnel vision for Barbados, but it is inclusive. And I imagine that is a part of how she would have come up with speaking about the universal basic income. However, if you even just use the Caribbean, there is not going to be any one figure that you can say, if you pay this wage, it will be a livable wage for all Caribbean people. Because different states have different sizes, have different economies of scale. Let us use Jamaica, for example. You are setting up a business in Jamaica, and you are saying, okay, I want to pay a livable wage to all my workers, so everybody is comfortable, can pay their bills. But in setting up your company in Jamaica, you realize that the cost of electricity is so high that it's not just a line item. The cost of security is so high that it's not just a line item. The cost of theft is so high that it's not just a line item. So when you look at the cost of electricity and the cost of security, those two items alone, which in many other countries is a small amount, but in Jamaica is a big thing. So that is going to negate in many ways your ability to pay an across the board livable wage to everybody, because your profits are going to be eaten into by your electricity costs and by your security costs. Now you say, okay, go the route of solar, which is good, but guess what happened? many persons, and especially many small businesses, are not able to find the upfront money, even though they recognize the benefits of it. But they can't find the upfront money to put in a solar system. So even if you start and doing it incrementally, you're now going to have to be paying the cost to input the solar and the electricity cost. So until you can get all of that accomplished, is a double you're going to be paying towards your power source. So those two things alone, where Jamaica is concerned, can't work. In every other country, you're going to have other issues. In Barbados, when you look at the population size of Barbados, what they require may be less than what another country requires. When you look at, say, a St. Vincent, based on the population size of St. Vincent, and St. Vincent may import a lot more than another country. So a lot of St. Vincent's foreign exchange goes into bringing in stuff. So that is also going to have a negative impact on this universal livable wage, because everybody's gross domestic product is different, and no way will they be able to agree and say, okay, we are going to pay each worker X amount because it has been determined scientifically that this amount can take care of everybody's bills. However, it is something that can be a foundation that you can say, okay, looking at the Caribbean as a region, if you have this as a base income, and then each country can now see how they can add to that, how they can top it up to bring their population, their workforce to that livable income. But then you look at other things now. Many private sector entities are not going to sign on to that. Many government entities are not going to willingly want to sign on to that. How are you now going to treat with the trade unions? Because trade unions are there to try and get as best as they can for the persons that they represent. So how do you now bring all of these players to the table to get an agreement? Now, you talk about the private sector, the public sector, the trade unions, but then there are also many mom and pop businesses, many small businesses, a man who owns a one pharmacy or a one farm store or a one supermarket or a one restaurant.
And
how do you bring them? But you see, even before you get to the farmers now, how do you bring them into that conversation? And how do you have them earn sufficient to be able to meet that universal basic income? Personally, it is something very idealistic, and in an equal world, it would be great. But I just do not see it happening.
And you touched some important point, by bringing people to the table. And what I observe with government, how they are operating, as you say, it is just ideological, and what I am hearing from even the Prime Minister of Barbados and even our Prime Minister here in Jamaica, they are echoing the agendas of the globalists. These things are not from them, if you check it out deeply, These things are something that they are just repeating. It's like they received some orders to carry out, that you must present. This is what we are giving you to carry to your people. And the people are just there. As you talk about security, we're looking and we're reading something in the Lena this morning. My producer sent it to me pertaining to the security system in Jamaica, about Jamaica Eye. And Jamaica Eye, them talk about launch 2018 with about 180 cameras. The system now boasts just over 850 devices. See, that alone can even secure Jamaica, but it is going to cost us, you know, serious cost to that, because we don't really make camera Jamaica. Most of these cameras are, I believe, are in security cars. You know.
But you see, Aymara, we have to.
Very serious.
But you know, when you look at the concept of Jamaica Eye, which is nothing new, and it is something that is very needed. It is something that has also shown benefits already. It is something that I believe that it needs to be expanded.
Yes, I agree.
However, it is not something that can or will happen overnight. And this is something now where something that has this type of national long-term benefit. I would say, why not turn to some of the taxes that go elsewhere, like the tax from the betting, gaming, and lotteries people. Why not take off some of that towards this project? The tax that goes towards the tourism enhancement fund or the Chase fund, because this is something that you can say over a 3-year period. We can roll out 5,000 cameras across the island. You bring on board the telecom providers to work in partnership with the government, which they already are. But you build that out and you give them also some concessions for what you're going to get. And some of these things are workable, you know. But guess what happened? Unfortunately, I'm not saying that this is the case specifically now with Jamaica, but too many times you have a few people who want to hold on to everything, a few people who they want to be the one earning all the money, a few people who they must be above everybody else. They rake in everything and everybody else suffer. So chances are, when you look at behind the scene, you will understand why since 2018, now we only have 650 devices.
850.
850. Right?
Yeah. No, when I look at it, you see, he said something here. Jamaica Eye is filed under the plan to secure Jamaica, which is geared towards creating a safe, secure, cohesive, and just society, thereby providing an environment for increased and sustained growth and prosperity. When we look on that paragraph, right, and the whole thing of secure, cohesive, and just society, and you just point to some of the issues, you know, within a kind of system that we are in. You know, you're putting up cameras, but you're not changing the economic structure. You're not changing the political environment. But you believe by putting up some camera can create a cohesive and just society or a secure society.
Well,
just that. If you
in my mind,
read into that,
In my mind, it will not create this cohesive and safe society in and of itself. But what it will do is it will help to create pause, and it will help to make the security forces better able to know and to track when when criminal activities have taken place. There are other sides to look at also, you know, Aymara, in that I'm not sure how much the security companies have been brought on board with the government's plan. But the security companies is one thing, because a security company may be willing to work with the government. However, when an individual has a security camera set up on his or her own property, and a crime takes place across the road, and you go to that individual and say, we would like to see your footage. That individual may be fearful of sharing because the individual may not have confidence that the information about where the footage came from would be kept confidential.
Yes.
So
True.
that fear factor, which is very high in Jamaica, will prevent a number of persons from helping, because there are many security systems in Jamaica where the door camera has a wide lens and it can see things happening up and down and across your street. But when your camera records something, you are not necessarily going to want to rush to give it to the authorities because their level of confidence is not high that it will remain confidential. Your level of confidence is not high that if and when it actually goes to court, that the witnesses are going to come forward so that the case can progress. Because unfortunately, many persons charged with crimes get let go because the state is not able to build a case against them. And in many instances, the witnesses don't turn up. The witnesses say they're afraid. So all of those things have to go into it. However, Jamaica Eye by itself, in and of itself, I think is a good idea. And it is somewhere, it is the direction that we need to be heading in, to continue heading in. As a part of the process. It's not the whole thing, a part of the process.
I'm glad you touched it, is a part of the process, because you mentioned security companies, right? And recently I was talking to two security guards, and I hear the kind of pay that those people are getting. That in itself is unjust. The way our police in Jamaica, that in itself is unjust. So when you are going to talk about cohesive and just society, when the remuneration to police, the people who you want to track all of these things, although you have Jamaica Eye, but you're going to need personnel, to carry out investigation and do on, and them now get the kind of pay that them supposed to get, that them have a livable wage that can sustain them. And that's why we go back to the whole thing of a universal basic income. So when you look on these things and the world structure that exists in the world today, which we see these things are like you're putting Band-Aid over the main, the big sword that is there, which is to change the infrastructure, to break down the superstructure of inequality, of the whole system how it's set up right now in the world. And that is what we are talking about, how we are going to reshape the economic and the political infrastructure, because all of these things are functioning, are being implemented by the same infrastructure, not in the best interest of us all.
But you see, when it comes to of us all, there are also several levels there, because you as the head of a household, you as a man, you as a member of a family, you need to be able to try and do what you can do to provide for the welfare and the security of you and of your family members, to provide food, shelter, proper education, other opportunities to make them rounded. However, when you build that out and you look at the structure of government, again, I'll use Jamaica because that's where I'm most familiar with. We need a government to have the courage to turn the system upside down. We need a government to say, we're going to tear all of this down and we're going to start over in many ways. We need a government that is going to say the big man should fear when he or she breaks the law. Because even though it is one law, you know, when you have the money to pay for top class, top flight defense team, is a different thing from your not having the money, and so the system rides roughshod over you and your court-appointed attorney, or your attorney who is a one-man operation and has so many cases and is not able to properly do all the research, to do everything. So you become a statistic in that person's caseload, while the man or woman with the money has a big law firm on retainer. And so when anything happens, they have, depending on what it is, they have criminal lawyers, they have lawyers to deal with commercial activity, whatever it is, because you have the money to pay for it.
Yes.
So you have people who you pay to properly utilize the system and the loopholes in the system, where the majority of the people don't have that. I mean, I'm not even getting into the class issue at this point about, you know, how some people are treated just because of them name, or that them light or brown, or them related to Mr. X, because that is also a part of the problem.
And just recently we see something happen with somebody that custom officers were on, and just one call from the security minister and that person is out. And
you see, there, you know,
the immigration
that also
people,
raises issues. That raises some issues in that years ago, there was a separation of operation
yes,
and the policy. And the
True.
operation side falls under the commissioner, and the policy side falls under the Ministry of National Security. Now, I am waiting to hear some more details as to what transpired, because on the face of just what has been in the media,
yes,
an official from the Ministry of National Security ought not to have the power or the authority, legal authority, to call and have such an action taken. But
that's it.
the reality is, Jamaica being a small place and so many persons connected, interconnected and related, a policeman or a policewoman may not feel sufficiently emboldened or that they are empowered to tell the Minister of National Security or his nominee no. Even though they have the legal right and they are standing on the authority of the arrest powers of a constable, but they may not feel that they have the authority to do it, because guess what happened? When you tell the Minister of National Security no, then you may face backlash, whether it's real or perceived.
No,
You may feel that it is going to hamper the path that you're on for a promotion. So, you know, these things go into it when somebody at the level of a cabinet minister calls and says, do this or do that. So, you know, these are things, and that is why there really ought to be such a clear demarcation as it is in writing, but not in reality. Policy is the government, operation is the police commissioner.
Joe.
It will be a different argument, you know, if the police commissioner called and said, release the man. Hold on, let me finish. Even though,
yes,
if the person had been charged which I'm not sure that the person had been charged. But if the person had been charged, it is more difficult for the police commissioner to say, drop those charges, because the constable power of arrest is a very serious power under the Constabulary Force Act. But that is not what happened. So I'm even straying from the point.
Yeah, you're straight from the point, because when we look at the reality right now in Jamaica, see, we see even in the past, when in the COVID period, there was a minister, maybe in a bar, and the police went there and said to him, say, watch ya, it's COVID, and him say exempt. And what he did is called the same security minister here on the phone. You understand? So we observe that it is a trend. It is a trend.
But those are the things that
as you talk about.
Those are the things that increase the lack of confidence of the public in the authority. Because you who are supposed to be upholding the law, you who are supposed to be setting the example, you are abusing the system. Your being exempt does not provide you with cover to go sit down and have a drink with your friends. It provides you with the cover to be on the road after the curfew period, to work on emergencies, to do the government's work, to do certain specified things, not to go sit down and have a drink with your brethren them.
Impartial. You can't have an act that is partial. Why it is partial?
No, okay, look at it this way. Look at it this way. I agree that there are persons who will require exemptions under any emergency.
True.
You have persons who are, the phrase is not coming to me right now, but there are categories of persons who are needed, no matter what the emergency. You have to have hospitals running. You have to have police stations running. You have to have fire brigades running. So all of those people, essential services. So the members of the cabinet would fall under essential services, because should something occur that requires certain action to be taken, the cabinet would need to convene. So on the face of it, I have no issue with a cabinet minister being a member of the essential services. When I was in the media as an active member of the media, there are many, we were considered essential service members, because when downtown burning down, you need the media to tell people, to publicize what is happening and for people to stay away. But it's not giving you cover to go and relax and enjoy yourself. No, it is supposed to be within a parameter, within certain parameters, which unfortunately, many of our officials, they abuse what ought to be a sacred held privilege.
True. And that is the problem that we are facing in a society like Jamaica, where, our people just see certain privilege as something that them just feel like them can do anything with it. You know what I mean? And it is sad that politicians feel that way, that because you roll on somebody and because he's the relative of a politician, no matter what the case is, that person is supposed to suffer the consequences like the other citizens of the country. And that is something that we need to look into, and to see how we can break these cycles, because we can run a just society with that kind of principle, as he's talking about, the whole thing in Jamaica, in this paragraph, a just society, or a just society can function with partiality, and everybody are, you know, just doing what them feel because them have power.
You know, Aymara, for me, you talk about a just society. For us to have a just society, we need to have an educated society. If people do not have a certain basic level of general education, we will not be able to arrive at a sustainable, just society. There are things that can happen that bring about some short-term cohesiveness. But if the people are not, the masses are not educated, it cannot be sustainable. Education has to be.
And when you say educated, yes. When you say educated,
well, I wasn't hearing you.
I want you to continue. You wasn't hearing me. I'm
hearing you now.
Was going in. All right. So I want you to complete the point that you was making a while ago.
No, you're asking me about when I say an educated society. Yes.
Yes. More you break from that, more you define, you know, give a clear definition of that. Because the reason why I'm asking that, right? When we look on how the system running right now, the people who are in power, we would say they are very educated people. And we recognize recently, you know, even the whole restructuring of the income in Jamaica, right? And we see how much the parliamentarian take for themselves. And we're looking at that and say, these people are educated people, you know what I mean? The people who are, we claim, uneducated, looking on and realize that, but this don't really look right. And we see a kind of thing that is taking place pertaining to how justice, you know, supposed to administer in the country. So when you say educated society, in order for us to have a just society, what you really mean? Well, you know, give some.
Okay, so it's, for me, it is at several levels. Basic education, being able to read, write, know your timetables. Hold on. Know your timetable, things of that nature to make you functional. Now, you also should be taught the history of your country. Where did Jamaica evolve from? What does it mean to be a Jamaican national? What are your rights and your responsibilities of being a Jamaican? What defines Jamaica? When you know something about who you are, it gives you a better grasp, a better ownership of it. Now, there are ways of doing that from basic school level coming up. You know, you teach the pledge, you teach the this, you know, there are many ways of doing it incrementally. So you teach the child at the age and stage that the child is at. So that by the time that child finishes primary school, that child is well versed on the civics of Jamaica. And then now you move on to tertiary, high school education, wherein you now start to look at a broader world views of things. And you include, why should we have somebody whose teachings are so great as a Marcus Garvey, and his teachings are not taught in Jamaica?
Yes.
There are many people in many other countries that are embracing and have embraced the teachings of Marcus Garvey. But we don't pay that any attention. Because when you highlight the work of a Marcus Garvey and you relate it and bring it back to his Jamaican roots, it also helps to better anchor those high school students. I am not saying that to the exclusion of any other teaching, you know, because we get a whole heap of other world
Yes.
history, world geography, world everything.
Mhm.
But I do not believe that we get sufficient of what makes us Jamaican. And to do that would help to give us a lot more pride in how we operate.
Mhm.
Dovetail that with helping to reduce crime and violence. I think I told you before that I wrote a violence prevention program from 2016, and I have not been able to get any entity to take it on. And for me, it is something that I believe can help to bring about a large-scale reduction in crime and violence. And a lot of it is pegged to persons respecting each other and being taught respect from the childhood coming up. Because unfortunately, a number of our children do not see respect at home. They see violence, they see antagonism, they see abuse.
True.
So it has to be inculcated in them somewhere.
Yes.
It's all good and well to say, yes, the education, everything begins at home. True, but sometimes what begins at home is not what makes for a well-rounded citizen. So we have to put in place a program that can help to show a young man that there's no reason for him to box or hit a young lady. To show a young lady that because a young man opens a door for you does not mean that it takes away your independence.
True.
These are some of the common things that help to make people more respectful of each other. Look at me as a big man. I am not telling you that I don't use what we call bad words, because I do. But guess what happened? It is the rare exception that you would hear me use what is commonly called a bad word in the presence of a female, because that is how I was brought up. That type of language, when you and your friend them sitting down and having a drink and playing dominoes and rabble-rousing and stuff. But out of respect for your mother and every woman being a mother, you treat those persons with a certain amount of respect and deference, while at the same time not in any way taking away their ability to provide for themselves, provide for them family, get them education, and get big jobs. In Jamaica today, 70% of the university students are women. Because too many of our young men are busy digging out them hand middle and want to turn scammer.
But guess what? The university women can't even find a proper job to sustain themselves. That's the sad part of it. As you mentioned about Marcus Garvey, right? And why, remember, even up till now, Marcus Garvey is a criminal, and the books in America, right, is not exonerated yet. And all know whenever we see our government, because Edgar Hoover, remember Edgar Hoover classified Marcus Garvey as a dangerous man, and he came to Jamaica as a dangerous man, and he left Jamaica, went to England and died as a dangerous man. So we can see the reason why they are not we can see the reason why they would not teach, the ideology and the philosophy and opinion of a dangerous man, because the infrastructure,
that's an excuse. That's an excuse, Amara.
Yeah?
That is an excuse.
Call it an excuse.
No, I am calling it an excuse. I am saying that the authorities, if that is what the authorities say, then it would be an excuse to not teach Marcus Garvey. Not anything based on solid reasoning. It would not be something based on solid reasoning. I wish that I had been taught Marcus Garvey in school. When I look at the teachings and the readings of Marcus Garvey, I say, boy, my mind could have been so much more expanded had I been taught this in a structured manner when I was in high school. Because you see, it's a different thing, when you pick up a book and you read it, it's one thing, But when you have it broken down systematically for you, just like how them break down the maths and the geography, that type of Jamaican civics, the way it would broaden your mind and make you realize just how important a being you are as a Jamaican and how confident you ought to be as a Jamaican and how protective of Jamaica you ought to be as a Jamaican. So they have taken away a lot of that from all of us by not teaching us Marcus Garvey in school.
Then you see, that's what I'm saying. If them realize that the court, the amount of where you come from at the time, seeing, as according to what you are saying, that say your generation did fully educated about the philosophy and the opinion of Marcus Garvey, you think the present system that is in place would be in place now?
No, because we would be educated.
That's
and
why
we would not
dangerous.
tolerate a lot of what we would not tolerate a lot of what successive governments in Jamaica have been handing down to us.
Yeah. We will not. We would not,
but we don't have the education.
I'm just pointing out what is. Yes, we're just pointing out what is and why we are in the dilemma and that we are in now, and what is it we are going to do, right, to make that kind of change, because we can't continue like this, Me and you still there, we can't call ourselves elders or seniors now. See, we could use the word senior because we're not old yet. See, but we have children coming, and how much we can impart this knowledge, this understanding to our children that them can know, say, yo, we have to take charge of ourselves because nobody is going to empower us. As I read earlier on and said that the oppressors will not empower the oppressed to overthrow the oppressors. The oppressed will have to educate themselves, and find ways and means to liberate themselves and in turn liberate the oppressors. We'll see if we can find a piece of music, and come forward. But
MRO.
Producer,
MRO.
Yeah.
Before you find a piece of music, just to tag on to what you said. Remember earlier when I was speaking, I said that as a man and as the head of your family, we have to start at home. Yeah. We have to start by doing whatever we can for our family. And that is how every family needs to start looking at it. That everybody, every individual, every head of household, be it male or female, needs to take responsibility for those under your care and charge and see how is the best way that you can chart the most rounded pathway for those individuals.
Yeah. True. And you better mention early on that a lot of our people, they are so psychologically, mentally affected by the system that them only can give what them have. Them only can give them sorrow. Them only can give them ignorance. Them only can give them illiteracy. That's what them have to share, And there is where you and I and others, come in now.
But that's the minority, Aymara.
We play that role in our community.
You know that?
Eh?
Those people actually are the minority,
The people who
the ignorant,
illiterate, those are
yes, man, the ignorant and the abusive. And let me tell you why I say that. Many of our foreparents never had no big education,
Mm-hmm.
but they knew it was
True.
important for us to get the education. They made sure that we went to school
True.
with food in our belly. They made sure that we went to school and we got
Yes.
the teaching. So even though sometimes when we came home, some of them could not help us with the homework, they made sure that we did the homework, because even sometimes though they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
read and write, we never knew that they couldn't read and write, until we got bigger. Because them sit down over here and say, hey boy, you think that is right? Do it
True.
over. Make sure that because what? They were so driven that you come out better and have more. And education is not all about book learning. Many of them are very instinctive.
Ah,
They knew what was right, they knew what was wrong, and they knew how to guide you. So many of these people, it's the minority in our society that creating all of this breakdown, not the majority. If it was the majority, there would be no Jamaica. If it was the majority, there would be no world. It would
agree
have
with
all
you.
ended already.
You have a great point there. So when we come forward, we are going to talk more about education, because it is very, very important. You just said it is not just book learning. And we want to reason as a farmer, somebody who's also a farmer, because when we talk about farming, people don't even know that that is a big part of our education, that we need to understand nature, life, and how we function, and the things them outside in the nature there and how things operate. We will take a short break and come forward with a piece of music. Just sip some water, Chris, and then or drink some. I don't know what you have there, if you have a wine or okay.
Water, man, water,
So
water,
then we come
water.
forward. Yes. Look into the mirror. Look in the mirror.
Oh, yeah. Answers in the mirror. The mirror. In the mirror. Oh, yeah. Say the answers in the mirror. The mirror. In the mirror. Oh, yeah. Are we living in a selfish world with self-centered men, women, boys and girls? Caught in self-pity, seeking self-justice. Every human come subscribe to this. Let's choose to help others, don't be self-serving. Better to give than receive, it's more rewarding. Born to lead in an area of gifting. No excuse, walk in your calling. We are the change that we want to see. We can change the world, but it takes a you and me. I am the change that I want to see. Watch me change the world, cause the change lives within me. The answer's in the mirror. The mirror. In the mirror. Oh yeah. The answer's in the mirror. The mirror. In the mirror. Oh yeah. It's not a black and white thing, but a dark and light thing. Ignorance, them highlight and knowledge, them fighting. So get this right, king, you're not a peasant, you're a king. Stop fussing over dirt, which is the color of your skin. Greater than your outside is the image that's within your character. Like this, like lightning, you're shining. Don't conform, be transformed. The world changes rising. Oh, we are the change that we want to see. We can change the world, but it takes you and me. I am the change that I want to see. Watch me change.
Yes, that's a very inspirational piece of music, from Rondell Positive, right? The answer is in the mirror. We can be the change that we want to see. And that is, our tagline here in our community and in the wider world. you know, the people them from media tune in and them a listener. His girl 77 say, yes, he was a brilliant thinker. True trailblazer way before his time. Yeah. In come 9 time, that is in time. I mean, well, this is a question from DJ Gaddafi. Marcus Garvey is a Jamaican national hero, but was he pro-Jamaica, pro-independence, or just pro-Africa? That is for you, Chris. DJ Gaddafi asked this, that Marcus Garvey was a Jamaican national hero, but was he pro-Jamaica, pro-independence, or pro-Africa?
All right, so let me preface my response by saying that I in no way am I a scholar. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
No, yeah.
Okay, so let me preface by saying that in no way am I well schooled in the teachings of Garvey. However,
come like we're on a little delay.
I am hearing you loud and clear.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
All right, you go ahead.
Okay, so
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
I believe that Garvey, while he may not have singled out Jamaica, the place that he came from, I believe that his overarching look at wanting Africa for Africans was also in a context of seeing the majority of Jamaicans as being of African descent, African heritage, and that in internationalizing Africa, in making Africa a number one place in the world for commerce, for doing business, for entertainment, for education, that Jamaica would also directly benefit from that. I think in some ways, Africa was also used to talk about blackness and black people, not just Africa.
Maybe we're going to use it the next half of this program. Yes, Chris, we could take a break. Maybe we're going to use the next half of this Africa. We're going to call you from the phone because this thing will hack up. Yeah, Chris? We just switch out to the phone because this is breaking up a little. We really want this conversation to flow, right? Yeah, I know, Chris. Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes. So, yes, you can go and say what you were saying because we had a little disturbance while you were talking pertaining to answering to DJ Gaddafi.
Well, yes, I don't even know where I'd reached now when I had the
all right, but could just go over back.
What I was saying.
Yes.
Basically what I was saying is that even though Marcus Garvey may not have specified Jamaica, I believe that he saw Jamaicans as a part of the black race, a part of the African race, and that his drive would have included Jamaica in the education, the entertainment, the commerce of what he was trying to do. In that, I don't believe that he also just saw Africa as the continent alone, but also as a representation for all black people anywhere in the world.
Well, I agree with you with that. You know, what I would say to DJ Gaddafi is that he must also remember that Marcus Garvey returned to Jamaica, even though he was deported. But he returned to Jamaica in 1927 and 1929. He started his political party, and that was in the interest of helping the Jamaican people, and that was long before independence. You know. I don't even believe he was pro-independence because what he was agitating and advocating for is for the liberation of Africans at home and abroad, and liberation of Africans and women abroad is much more powerful than pro-Jamaica. That is how I see it, you know. Are you there, Chris?
Yeah, man. I agree with what you have said.
Yes, you know. He believed that his ancestors should have never been forced to cross the ocean. That is his girl 77. All black were African to him, no matter the nationality. You know, lowering straight up facts. Yes, so we're Primal family over there tuning in and listen. See? Well, Chris, you spoke about education in you know, not just book works, right? And you was talking about, you know, some of our parents, how they insisted upon us, you know, achieving the kind of education that would lift us out of poverty. I was talking to a young man in the market recently, and we were just observing. I asked him, I have some corn, you know, and I was said to him, is it the right season now for plant corn? And he said, hey, he said, yeah, perfect season. And he said, but the moon up now. He said, let me check the calendar. And he go for a McDonald's calendar. And he said,
yep, I have one.
He said, you know what's wrong? He said the best time is maybe the 27th and between the 27th and the 28th of July. And I said, wow. See? So me remember, though my grandfather and most of the farmers that when we grew up within the community that I grew up in the hills of St. Thomas, weren't that academically sharp. But when it comes to understanding nature, understanding the land, understanding the moon cycle and all of these things, they were well educated, pertaining to hubs to education. You feel that where we are today, you know, and the infrastructure and the system that is in place, are we paying attention enough to that aspect of nature? When you say, you know, oh, the environment, people are destroy the environment and all of these things, you know, are we paying much attention, or is just some talk in a one, even this whole thing of global warming and all these pretty things? Because we back then, our farmers did understand that long time.
You see, the McDonald's book, you know, that book has been around for more than 100 years, you know.
Wow.
And many of our forefathers were not able to read.
True.
They were able to read the signs of the moon.
Yeah.
And from what had been handed down to them through the generations, they over time came to understand when was the right time to plant, the right time to weed, the right time to fish, the right time to do so many things.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was not book learning, but it was education handed down through the generations. What they were taught, what they saw, what they learned, and they in turn handed it down to the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
But farming in Jamaica is nowhere near where it should be. Farming in Jamaica is something that many people are walking away from instead of getting involved in. It is thankless, it is backbreaking, it is heart-wrenching, and many persons do not have what it takes to restart after you get a blow from the weather. Mm-hmm. And so when you lose a crop, you may not be able to put in back the crop at that same quantity.
True.
And when you have to scale down like 3/4, it takes you so much more time to be able to get back to some sort of proper earnings from it. Also, so many of our farmers in Jamaica have less than 5 acres of land that they farm. Mm-hmm. And because it is for many of them, their their bread and butter. It is how they earn. They're not really able to plant 2 acres of something and 3 acres of one thing.
Yes.
Because every week they have to have something to be able to reap, to take to the market, to be able to pay their bills. So you might have a quarter acre of this, a quarter acre of that, and you have 10 different things rotating so that every week you can reap something to take to the market. Now, that is good and that is bad. It is good from the point of view that you are providing for your family and you are putting food on the table, you are paying your bills. It is bad from the point of view that it does not allow you the expansion to be able to grow the size and scale of what you are doing. Because every week you need to be reaping something to take to the market. It's different from a man who has a 20 acre of land or a 10 acre of land. And he can say, well, okay, I am going to parcel off this and I'm going to put in, we're talking about corn, I'm going to put in an acre or 2 acres of corn and an acre of pumpkin, while you still have the other 5 acres in quarter acre that gives you the weekly subsistence earning. But when the 1 acre of pumpkin come in or the 2 acre of corn come in, it gives you the opportunity to save some money.
Yes.
It gives you the opportunity to buy some blocks and some things to start putting up another room on the house. It gives you the opportunity to put something into the children university fund. But farming is not going anywhere. Not for a very, very long time. No matter, even though now you have so much GMO and so much things that come up so hurriedly.
Yes.
You still need in every country persons to farm the land, to feed the population. There will be no world without a farmer.
Well, you touch a very important point. And what is this is one of the things I want to point out to you. You see the commercialization of farming, not against it. I just want to make that clear. But when we were growing up, we realized that most of the people were small farmers, but they have a community kind of vibration about them. So everybody wouldn't plant the same thing. That man plant pumpkin and gungo, the other man plant corn, banana, such and such, yellow yam, such and such. And they would kind of have a kind of system where them share in to how them function, right? And I realized that the reason why our people, especially in the Sentamas, were functioning at that kind of level is because of the African principles that handed down to them in a oral way, that them could have functioned and operate. But we never feel like we really are left out until the things become more commercialized, where we realize you have to depend upon the monetary system. But we were functional. We never go to bed hungry. We always have something to eat. And the self-sufficiency of us building our own house and them things from the material in the woods, whether it is bamboo, whether it's dab and wackle and touch and all of these things. So what we are looking at is how things become commercialized, and we believe that farming is no more sustainable and can't help. And this is where we are talking about the new economic system that we need for Brazil. Whether it is a new economic system or a system that can make us have a kind of life that is, we'll call it respectable, a life of dignity. Because when a man can feed himself, it's the greatest thing that, when a nation can feed itself, it's the greatest thing that, and when we look and see what farming is, what is happening in the world today, it's like one set of people want to control the food that them can distribute them poison food. And we understand what took place in Jamaica from the 90s coming up till now, right? Our farmers really get a beating from importing some substandard food from up north. to the detriment of our original organic food. You know what I mean? If when I mention corn right now, is few farmers can find some organic corns or some organic red peas or some of them things. Most of them things they dead out because of GMO.
I agree. And it is, for me, I believe that after that Jamaica has not been serious about agriculture since the Michael Manley days with the Agricultural Marketing Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
I do not believe that any serious sustainable development thought has been put into agriculture for the masses of the farmers. The select few and the persons who have the large acreage and the persons who have the money, many of those persons have benefited through the expansion of their properties. But a lot of the smaller farmers have not been able to benefit in Jamaica. Now, you have to understand both sides of the coin, because a bank is not just going to take up its money and lend you, and then so often the crop gets destroyed because there is no type of insurance that is there to buffer the farmer.
As you talk about banks, remember, I recently, I'm going to share this with you. Recently, I was talking to somebody close to me who used to work in the bank. And he said, say, are the farmers them, are the bedrock of the bank. He said the biggest money them in the bank will make the bank function is from farmers. Now, as I talk about the whole thing, remember that in the 70s, recently I was driving past somewhere and I see something set up like Workers' Bank or Farmers' Bank. I said, them bank is still about, right? Insurance, credit unions. A lot of the credit unions in Jamaica start out of the Farmers Initiative. Do you know that?
Yes.
So when the whole thing of going to this commercial bank for loan, they are the one really and truly don't really want the small man. That is what we are talking about, the present economic system, the present superstructure that is in place, that it is very oppressive in its nature towards the people. And we cannot be here, feel like, putting up Jamaica high and all of them things that is going to change the condition of our people, is going to create a just society. What we must look at is how we are going to change the ideological political system. I have a term that I'm using from a recent time, that we need an ideological, intellectual insurrection for us to really move beyond where we are. Because it is quite obvious, Christopher, that the kind of education that we have received over the years, not really a move forward. When we look how our leaders then behave, when we look how our people then behave, people with PhDs and masters, and how them think, we are not thinking as thinkers. And I'm going to read something right here, so where one I believe is Llewellyn or his girl 77. Rockefeller is the cause of that. He says that he just wanted workers, not thinkers, hence the education system. And that is true. That is true. When you observe the education system, most of who got through it were just regurgitating what was handed down from Europe. We don't even develop a curriculum for ourselves, because the curriculum that we are function is not a curriculum to empower us. It's merely a curriculum to create what we call more workers, more than really thinkers. The farmers and those people were real thinkers. As we said, they were people who educate themselves. As Marcus Garvey stated, that, it's two kinds of education. One, where somebody else educates you, and the education that you have developed for yourself. And the one that you have developed for yourself is the man that who will totally liberate himself, the man who develop an education for himself, or the nation who develop an education for itself, will fundamentally liberate itself from an education that is being given to you by your oppressors. And that is the challenge that we are facing now, don't you think so?
Yeah. And, that is why, when we were talking earlier, and I was talking about speaking the history of Jamaica, before we the teachings of Marcus Garvey, because if you know who you are and know where you're coming from, it gives you a better idea about how to go to where you want to go and how to get there.
True.
You don't know your own country's history. It creates a problem. It creates a vacuum. It makes you embrace other people's history because you have not been taught your own.
True. Now, you mentioned that, and we are here on the community buzz, to raise awareness, to see where we are now, to see where we are coming from, and to look also, what is it we need to do now to move forward. And that is why, I have you here, because I know that you're a man of ideas, more than one, as somebody who, work in government, work in the media, I know that you are well capable and knowledgeable enough that we can come up with something, as we were talking early on in the week, how we can find a way out of this, because we realize that it is us will have to make the change that is totally going to liberate us and take us to another level, because we are in a world right now where the 2030 agenda is not our agenda. It is not ours, right? What is the agenda that we are going to create for ourselves as African people?
Well, I go back again to talking about we as individuals, as families, as communities have to take responsibility for how we prepare our future generations. It may initially be selfish, but if you are doing it and your neighbor is doing it and your neighbor is doing it and it spreads to your community, it can spread to the country, because we cannot sit down and say we are waiting on an establishment to change a structure, to put in a system that we are going to be satisfied with.
No.
So whatever system is in place, first of all, right now, it is all good and well that you want something to benefit your nation. But right now, you need to think first about empowering your family,
yes,
empowering your future generations. And I say this also, against the background of being very aware of how fortunate I am in that I have a university education.
Good.
I know many people who do not have a university education. I know many bright people who, if they had been given that opportunity or that other type of formal training for, some of what they wanted to do,
sure,
they would be so far ahead. So it is not lost upon me that I have been able to go to university. It is not lost on me that my sisters were able to go to university. the sacrifices that our parents made to ensure that we were able to do it is not lost on us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, yes, you want good for Jamaica, you want good for everybody,
Yes.
but you have to start where you have the control that is
Sure.
in your household, in your family, in your circle, in your community,
Chris,
and build it out from there.
you mention you mention your parents, you know. See? And I am just here thinking, do you feel most of us as Jamaican even take it upon ourselves to study the history of our parents or the bloodline that we come through, to see where our grandfather started, to see where our great grandmother started, to see what and where we come and we find ourselves now? Do you believe even that aspect of it? The kind of cohesiveness,
Most of us don't.
the kind of cohesion or the cohesiveness when we hear the Minister of National Security that was reading the article. If we did really have a full understanding, may I use that term, understanding of what our great-grandmother, grandmother, and grandfather, and down to some of us parents, been through, that you could be talking and boasting of a university education. How much have we? Well,
You're
on.
not boasting.
No, when I say
Hold
no, man, hold
I'm not
on,
boasting.
Chris. When we say boasting, may I use it in a nice way? And I show off. You just know, say, you feel proud to know that your parents, so let me use that term. Feel proud that your parents come from so far, you know what I mean? And put so much that you could achieve this. I am saying, how many of us really study that aspect of the journey and to see how we could, you know, me not even like talk about giving back, you know, because it's not anything to give back. I believe it is a responsibility of us who realize that our parents made serious sacrifices for us to be where we are. What is it?
Let me tell you, can I tell you something, Imara?
Yeah.
You see, when I finished with high school,
Yeah.
and I went home and I told my mother and my father that university is not for me, you know.
Right.
I'm not going to any university.
Yeah.
My parents said, that is your choice. But if you're not going to university, when do you start work? Because you're not living under this roof.
Whoa.
And not contributing.
Yes.
If you are going to university, then we have you covered. If you are a big man and not going to university, you need to be bringing in an income and contributing to the household.
Right. Which
So
that
it was.
Which that
You
aspect.
had to. So
Yeah,
it,
go ahead.
you couldn't sit down at home and go relax.
Aye.
Don't go so.
Aye. Which that is a part of the education too, you know, because where your parents are sure you say, you see the whole thing where we are talking about education. Your parents were educating you, you know, to understand, said, watch out, this is how the structure of communal living work, you know. We send you go high school, we want to further your education. And what the reason why we want to further your education is for you to be in a better position to also contribute. So, though you believe that sending you to university, you know, not saying that that was your belief, would escape you from contributing to the house. If you come from high school, yes, and you stop now, so you decide, say, this is the kind of education I am satisfied with where I'm at. They are saying, well, you have to find a way now to make sure, say, if you're in the house, you go contribute. And
that is what I did, because guess what happened?
Yeah.
I never went to university right out of high school. I went and I worked for a few years.
Aye.
And then I went to university. And guess what? When I was going to university, I was going to university the first time full time and working working full time.
Right, right.
And at the time, a full-time father, full-time husband.
So you see, when we are talking about education, Chris, this is a part of the educational process, You know what I mean? But how are we studying it? How are we engaging the whole aspect of everything that we do? You know what I mean? That it can work for a community. And I like say we have to go right over no new curriculum or no script, It's just for us to look into our own upbringing and realize that some great things, our parents did over the years to instill certain quality inside of us. You know what I mean? And how are we going to use it now to benefit our community, to benefit Jamaica? I believe I was looking at something recently and I was talking to some of our brethren, in the 1980s and, in the 70s it started, but more so in the 80s when I was a young political activist. And I said, enough of my brethren, them I go Cuba, saying, go get themselves educated, And I realized that none of them come back from Cuba, Christopher. And when it comes to them though, them come turn capitalists. Me no see none of them come back with no education and say, let me see how we can use this, because we went to Cuba and we acquired this from the Cuban Revolution, from the people who suffered, seeing, to give us this kind of education free. Or we have to go back to Jamaica and do the same thing. And this is what I'm saying. And I like say, we don't have certain things to work to get back that communal living, to get that new economic system that can create that cohesiveness, that can create that just society, is because I believe women have been overexposed to the I culture, the I getting rich, and the I driving a big expensive car, and the I owning a big mansion. You know what I mean? And some of us left our parents home, and some of our parents, not for the man, them will make all some big money. Them parents suffered in loneliness. It is the reality in Jamaica. If you check enough for it, if we go dig out some of them history there, we realize that the sacrifices that a lot of the parents made for a lot of these. I remember when I was living in St. Thomas, I'm going to share that story with you. I was in the library, the reference room, doing some studies, and a young man come in and he said to me, he want me to come with him to the Morant High School to talk to him teacher. So I turn and ask him, where's his mother? He said, boy, my mother can't represent me. I said, why? Because she chat bad. I said, what you mean your mother chat bad? Sir, me don't want him. She come up there and shame me. So I had to sit down that young man and say, listen, man, your mother where you claim say chat bad. And she saying you go to high school, Or you reach high school. You understand the culture me I talk about thing?
Yes, I do.
So a lot of our so-called brilliant minds are ashamed of where them emerged from. And it is
very true.
And this is a part of the education system. We will feel proud. The mother feel proud that them pick more than the pick them feel proud of the mother, The mother will go boast and say, my son a doctor, my son a nurse. See? But some of the pitney them don't even want to go show. They don't want to carry the mother go in a certain circles. Because she go
it's the false pride that they develop based on when they saw others around them who are they now have the haves, and they see themselves as they have.
Sure.
They want to try, and so they try to put the have not side of them behind them, which in many instances they are doing a disservice to themselves because they are not being true to who they are.
Because for a while, they have been living the lies. You know what I mean? The lies have been perpetuated even through the education system, and it continues, you know, because there's a false way of living and there's a false way of doing things, and this false way become their truth. You know what I mean? And this is the problem that we are facing, my brethren. This is the problem that we are facing, you know, and until we can have that kind of serious dialogue, you know, about the challenges that we are having and what we need to do to move out of the dilemma that we find ourselves in. Because it's some simple thing that we are not paying attention to, Chris. And this is one of that thing I may point out to you is something that I observe. You know what I mean? Nobody now go think. Nobody, if you check enough people, them, and it's not a thing with them study. But from my simple observation, even from that youth, it came to me, and I see a lot of my brethren them behave somewhere with them parents. You know what I mean? Because them believe that them reach. Them reach. You know what I mean? So if we can look at our immediate family, our environment, the people who help shape us, you know, and made immense amount of sacrifices to make us become where we are. It's a journey, you know. It's a journey. And that is why Marcus Garvey said, if you don't know where I come from, you're not going to know which part you're there now, and you're not going to know where you're going. You know?
And you know, it's not a one generation journey, you know.
No.
It is a generational, intergenerational journey.
Yes. Yes. And that is what I'm saying. We need to study our trad. Let me use that term there. We need to study the trad. We trad to be lacking.
Okay, well,
that is what is lacking.
I have not yet completed it. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying I have not yet completed it, but I have started looking into where my family came from.
Yes.
And, you know, it's very interesting. You know, it's really very, very, very interesting when you study it, and the word technology is so much out there now. Where you came from, where your family line came from, what your name means.
True. You know?
And I had to do those things.
Yeah, man. You know, and it not hard. It not hard. We still have some people living who very sharp in them 80s, not them 90s. You know, we need to find them out. And sometimes, of course, in a what I call it as biological family, whether from far cousin, because we are one family in this little island here, you know, just some little slave master name we have, but we are really blood. We are African. You know what I mean? Some people call themselves white. We check this that, you know, when we grew up, we have white, we have Forsyth, we have Drisdale, we have Searchwell, but it's just different names. But same family.
Yep.
Yes, Dad. So, my brother, happy to have you upon the community, Buzz, and we have learned so much. You know, we learned so much, and we believe that we're on to something great, you know? You know what I mean? You being a part of media over the years, and we see what Primal is doing, we see what Fit FM is doing. I believe there's a revolution taking place in media. One at a time gone, 2 radio stations with a link up, you know? So this in itself is a change, this, you know what I mean? To see how we can collaborate as a people and move forward, share ideas, and develop a kind of dialogical way of doing things, you know, remove from the high culture, you know. You see, even that piece of document. Yeah, go ahead. I want to give you the final.
No, I'm saying, but you know, here it is. We are doing exactly what I was talking about.
True.
we are using what we have
Yes.
to reach out to our people, our children, our family, our community, our circle.
True.
You are using Fit FM and Primal, those two platforms, to help to spread the word,
Yes.
to help to educate people, to help to make people recognize how important it is for
True.
them to find themselves and know who they are in search of how they want to get to where they want to get to.
True.
So what you and FM doing and what you and Primal doing, it's very important groundwork for where you want to go. And I must also say, thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of the Community Buzz today.
And it is not going to be the last time. You hear that? We are a family.
Understood.
Yes, I. We give thanks, Chris. We give thanks, for you to come and share your views, and they are, very important, and we appreciate them very much. You know what I mean? And
I hope you can join us later on, if even just in the chat for we have
Primal
Poetic this evening at 8:30.
So this evening is what? Erotica?
Yes, 8:30 US time and 7:30 Jamaica time.
All right. I go and make sure a long time come a Primal Poetic, me have to find myself.
So even if you just come in the chat, even if you're not coming to do a poem.
Yeah, man, me need for come in chat. Me need for tune in at the chat. I show sometimes I kind of get busy, because there's so much thing I have to do. But I'm going to try make it even half an hour this evening.
All right, and give thanks to your producer for setting it up for us.
All right, blessings and light, my brother. Love and light. See?
All right, much appreciated, Amara.
All right, Chris. Yes, this is the Community Buzz. Yeah, and that was Christopher Castriota. See? And he's a regular and primarily poetic. You only need to go over there and listen to Chris, especially tonight, Saying, ladies, when you go listen to Chris, I want to make sure when you're in that kind of mood there, because Chris don't play when it comes to erotica. See, it's a serious sport, Primal4k.com. I'm going to tune in later. Saying, bless up all of the people over Primal, the Ema, the masses, Llewellyn, all of the listeners and all of the family, So much people, we can't even, it makes sense me try to do this now for call the names, because we are going to have another half an hour or another hour here, so doing that. But we give thanks to all the listeners from around the world, and, we appreciate love. You being a part of Fit FM, Thank you, Nehima. Yes. Yeah. So coming up, Lady Denise C. Gomez. You understand? I want to bless up DJ Overflow. We want to bless up all of the family of Fit FM. I could bless up everybody, We want to bless up DJ Ordinary Extra. Bless up Ikema. Bless up DJ Weird. Yeah. I want to give thanks DJ Jacko. Yo, DJ Jacko can draw some wicked tune, man, a Saturday evening there, DJ Jacko, more you start draw some I'm all right now. I deal with DJ Jacko. See, one bless up Pastor Rotti. Pastor Rotti, I want to sit down with you inside of the Community Buzz one of the day. So make some time for me and you. And Reverend Nugent, we want to have a discussion on religion right inside yourself. To see how it affects our culture, our lives, and to see what we can do to move forward, right? So, Pastor Rotti and Reverend Dr. Nugent want the item for link me up one of the day upon the Community Buzz. Yes. Bless up, Reverend Watson. Well, we know you're locked already, See? You understand? It's a Community Buzz. Bless up all the listeners. Bev Moonchild, I see you tune in too. Bless up. And, next week we'll have a very interesting program. It is about health and fitness. See? So, love and light. Take care. The Community Buzz. I'm Mara. Next strong.